Coming up on today's episode, the Electron gets reusable, Tesla puts the squeeze on full self-driving, and NASA figures out how to get protein powder from the air. Let's get ludicrous. Hi there, and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool, crazy future stuff that's making today more interesting to make tomorrow just ridiculous. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers with Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim Dodd.
Oh, hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut. What? From internets, and with us is Ben Solons.
Hey guys, it's Benjamin Franklin from the Edison Electric Company. How are you guys doing today, fellas?
Ooh, I'm good.
Remember the Ben Franklin stores?
I think Joe and I have not slept, period, really.
Not really, yeah. The bags are for real today.
Yeah, I'm going to be struggling on this episode. I got to try to crank out a video here before I head back down to Texas to see Star Hopper hop.
Hippity hop.
Hippity,
a hip,
hippity
a hop, a hip, a hippie to the hip,
Are you gonna,
hip hop. Anybody?
Are you going to get the angle right this time, Tim? What's going on?
The angle right?
Are we going to see more than just a big puff of smoke?
Hey, that's not me. That wasn't me. Mm-hmm. The one thing I messed up was exposure. I did mess up exposure by taking it off of auto and trying to lock it down. But what I had no control over was how the rocket last time didn't even clear its own exhaust plume. But this time it definitely will.
This time it should, yeah.
Yeah, 200 meters it will. That's 10 times higher. It'll get way beyond its own exhaust plume, and it will be glorious.
What's that, like 600 feet or so? So like a 60-story building?
Yeah, I mean that'll be substantial. A lot more substantial.
Is it gonna spin for the
Hopefully
rotate
not.
the azimuth?
Hopefully it doesn't have any spin. It has the control thrusters to help make sure it maintains its heading and everything. It's all that stuff, but we'll see. It sounds like rumor has it this is the last hop of the hopper too, and they're just going like it's just gonna be retired after this, and they're going full into these big, massive Starship ones. Yes.
So let me jump on to you for not jump on. Woo, okay. I was listening to you on the Tomorrow show, the Tomorrow podcast.
Yeah.
I saw that popped up and I was watching it, and you were talking about something that I guess I just missed it or it didn't sink in or what. But you're saying they're putting together two orbital prototypes. So there's the Star Hopper, which is basically a water tank.
Yeah.
But you're saying they're making two like full-on, full-sized prototype things
as we speak, and they're very far along.
I don't think I realized that somehow.
One in Texas, one in Florida.
And the one in Texas is down at Boca Chica or McGregor?
Yep, at Boca Chica.
At Boca Chica.
Yep.
Elon posted some photos, right? Didn't he just go there or something?
Yeah, he went to both sites this past week. It's funny, we don't even have this in our show notes about like what we were going to talk about.
I know. but that blew my mind. I didn't realize that they were like full on working on like prototypes and that what you just said. So this is the last hop of the Star Hopper, and from that they're going to go into these.
Yeah.
Really, so the next things that we're going to be seeing is going to be really cool.
Yes, but it won't. The next thing we're going to see, they're going to just be testing just the Starship, the upper stage portion, and practicing. And since that has aerodynamic features and all the stuff, it'll be able to do high altitude flights and come back and land and stuff. The Star Hopper really was literally just like a really basic test bed to be able to make sure that they know how to do all the fueling procedures with liquid methane, something they've never done before. Quick disconnects and all that, throttling the engine. And this 200-meter hop is just going to be another, like, a little bit more substantial test than the first one. And then after that, it can't do much more than that because look at it. It doesn't have any aerodynamic surfaces. It's aerodynamically backwards with those, like, the fins that stick out, in front of the vehicle. It's nuts. So it can't really, like, in order to do, like, anything higher, you have to start coming down pretty fast. And we don't want this thing coming down pretty fast.
Right.
Yeah. So
next that's cool. That was something that had not been made clear to me for some reason in my own head. And in case there was anybody else out there as confused as I was, I thought I would clarify that real quick.
It's exciting. It's rapid iteration and really fast prototyping, and it's just super cool.
So does this mean the Raptor engine is like feature complete? Tested, or is there still probably a lot to do there?
We're using Tesla terminology on SpaceX hardware.
I don't know what
absolutely.
to call it. Yeah.
I mean, it's in its quote unquote production phase now. Like this 6 serial number seems to be sticking. It seems like they're ramping up production, and as in they're comfortable enough with its performance. It's not meaning to say that they're freezing the design of it, but they're finally in a state where they're more mass producing it. And just like the Merlin engine, they'll probably just continue to tweak it and continue to make it better, literally engine after engine. So it's kind of in its like we're ready to go state. Like this is an operational engine. Period.
It's like not the production one, but it is the production design.
It is a production one, and it is a production design, and it is.
Right.
Operational.
You think it'll fly? That specific engine that put Star it won't just stay in Starhopper?
No, they'll probably take it down, and they might make tweaks to it again before it gets on as one of the 7 engines. Well, I'm guessing the next Starship will only start with 3, but eventually it'll use 6 or 7 engines, and it has the thrust structure to do so. So I mean, pretty quickly we're gonna start seeing lots of Raptors arriving and a lot of new hardware like aerodynamic surfaces, fins, those finny things, the flappy air brakey things. We'll start seeing that kind of stuff arriving. We're going to start seeing actual hardware show up soon, and it's crazy. They're already like welding in bulkheads. They're welding in the thrust structure at the base where the Raptors will be. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's exciting.
It really is, yeah. So that was unintentional Starship and Starhopper news this week because I guess it just always happens, and I'm heading back down to Texas to see it. What sounds like probably the final flight of Starhopper. Bye, buddy.
So SpaceX currently is the only one that actually like reuses the rockets, though, right?
Well, funny you mention that. Kind of. That was Ben, you and your segues. Yeah, so they're maybe in the only ones for now, but guess what? Guess who announced plans to reuse their rockets this week? Just on Tuesday, Peter Beck, the CEO and founder of Rocket Lab, excitingly announced plans to reuse their Electron rocket. Now, I think we should just watch this in the background. I'm just going to pull up their video. For those of you watching, I'm going to describe it, but here we go. We're going to see, I'm going to mute this too, just so we don't have to worry about it. Well, first we see a beautiful logo over carbon fiber, which is what they always do. Now we're seeing an Electron go up into space, do its normal thing. It looks normal. You can't really see anything. And all of a sudden, boom, a shot of a helicopter on a boat, on the nose of the boat.
It's like a Bond villain.
His
seaworthy lair.
And now we're seeing stage separation of the Electron, the upper stage and the booster. They're separating. The booster, just like how boosters do, it's falling back to space now.
Tell me the helicopter's going to catch it.
And it's falling back to space. It's falling back to space. It's not doing any kind of propulsive reentry like SpaceX. It's just falling back from space back to Earth. I was saying falling back to space earlier. Sorry. Falling back to Earth. And it's still reentering, really hot, really crazy, going nutso. And guess what's going to pop out of the top? A hypersonic balloon. A hypersonic deaccelerator, followed by a steerable parafoil. And what's this? Along comes a helicopter. And this helicopter is going to run a drag line and snag onto the parachute. And ta-da, they're going to pick up the freaking rocket out of the air and then drop the rocket off on the same boat that the helicopter took off from, and then take it back and reuse it. How awesome is that?
They don't show how they get it back on the boat. Do they have like a giant mattress that they just kind of lay it down on?
They do show really. If you look at this here, I'll share the screen again.
They're leasing Mr. Steven from SpaceX to just drop it on the net.
So if you look here, I do some speculation here on my video that I'm almost done with, or I just finished scripting. I got to shoot and edit it before I leave. That's why I'm crapping my pants right now. There appear to be little cranes.
Oh, little grabbers.
Maybe little grabbers. Yeah. There might be little robots, something like that will likely maybe grab onto it and layer down here on the boat. That's my guess. I mean, that seems to make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's a pretty epic plan. What do you guys think?
That's exciting. I was watching it live, and I like the part where he showed the hat, the Rocket Lab hat, and was like, "I have to eat this hat now because we're gonna do something I have said a million times we're never gonna do."
Yep.
And that was funny.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't, because it's probably not biodegradable.
Might not be very healthy.
Zero calorie though. Why didn't SpaceX do this? This seems infinitely easier than. Oh, is it because the Electron's so small?
Yeah.
Because a helicopter couldn't probably carry a Falcon 9, even empty.
So here's the deal. SpaceX tried.
Oh.
They wanted to do this with the Falcon 1, and they probably would have. They didn't ever publish how they planned. Like, they were originally just going to splash it down. I'm sure they would have quickly realized that splashing a liquid-fueled rocket's a pretty bad idea. And I'm sure they would have, found a way to try to recover it before it hit the water. But they planned to do it with the Falcon 1, but they upgraded to the Falcon 9 so quick. But the first 2 flights of Falcon 9 actually had parachutes in them.
Huh.
But the problem is they never got to the point of deploying the parachutes because they burnt up on reentry. So that still begs the question, or sorry, is that not what you're supposed to say? Still,
people get weird about that.
Yeah, I don't quite get that at all. But anyway, the question is still to be asked: what is the Electron going to do differently? They're not going to be doing any kind of propulsive reentry here. They're just letting it hit the atmosphere and hoping that it sticks together. Whereas opposed to the Falcon 9 broke up without doing a propulsive reentry.
So the Falcon 9 does not, this isn't the boost back burn. That just turns it around. This is the part that slows it down so the atmosphere doesn't destroy it on the way in.
And the Electron is not doing that.
I wonder if they could time this with those fake meteor showers that one company wanted to do, and you could just just like double dip there. So it's like, we'll try to land. If not, hey, fake meteor shower, give us money.
Your understanding of orbital mechanics is so innocent. I love it.
Oh, it's so cute. It's so cute.
I'm telling you, I just want the money. Just make it happen.
Okay, we will. So that's the plan, is basically like after stage separation, it will have to orient itself. I actually got a little bit of insight from Mr. Peter Beck. He emailed me some insight, but basically they will be having to be able to control it, and there will be some kind of hypersonic deacceleration and supersonic deacceleration that will help it slow down so it doesn't blow up. But apparently they have all the models. They've actually tested and gathered data from 2 flights already on reentry and the heating that happens to the vehicle, and they're putting on another more valuable and more precise data recorder to get all 15,000 of their. I should probably add that to the script. I don't have that in the script. To collect really substantial and high fidelity data on this next mission. And then that's going to be flight 10, where we will already see the hardware for this on the pad. So it's a block upgrade.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like it was like, no, we can't do that. It would never work. It would burn up, blah, blah, blah. And then how many have they launched now? 6, 7 of them at this point. And they were collecting all this data. And it's kind of like, I think maybe we could actually do this. Like, I think it actually surprised them that they could actually reuse this thing.
And I think the other part of that is that now that they've been flying this vehicle for, this many times, they're constantly tuning, tweaking, and finding out that there's probably a little bit more performance out of the vehicle, where they can add things like parachutes and the supporting structures for those parachutes and whatever else. They can add that to the vehicle without it really taking an actual payload penalty, is kind of the other key.
Yeah. I didn't see in that animation, but are they doing a boost back burn there to slow down at all? Or they get up to like semi-orbitable for the second stage, and then so there's kind of like continuing on an arc and then coming back down.
Just like how a Falcon 9, when it's doing like a GTO mission and has to land really far down range, they totally omit the boost back burn, like Ben said. Okay. But then SpaceX does still an entry burn and a landing burn, no matter what.
Right.
And Electron is not doing either. No more burns after stage separation. No more fuels being spent. We're assuming I assume because they can actually run the Electron to depletion, something that a normal rocket can't do because of how the turbo pumps work. If they start sucking bubbles and stuff, it will likely blow itself up. And the electric turbo pumps or the electric pumps like this, they don't care. You know, if they suck up a air bubble, whatever, they just, you know, it's just an electric motor. So they can actually run tanks to depletion, and then that's different. So.
And that lightens the weight of the rocket. Mm-hmm. See, that was what got me, was when you were talking about the Falcon 9 actually kind of burning up as it came back through. It's so much heavier and bigger. I imagine the Electron has a smaller surface area, as well as just it's so light with being carbon fiber and everything. It would just kind of like
less dense.
It would have less friction. And my understanding of orbital mechanics is pretty adorable as well. But that was my take on it.
The biggest factor here is speed is the killer. I actually have the plots. You guys will have to wait. This is the video I'm working on. So, spoiler alert already. By the end of the, at the end of the podcast, we talk about what video. Yeah, I'm working on a really, really in-depth rundown already, and I plot the trajectories and the actual velocities of the Electron versus the Falcon 9. Compare that to their fairing recovery. Compare it to the Vulcan is planning to do a similar recovery system with their smart reuse, where they're going to ditch the engines and try to recover just the engines. And then I also compared it to the space shuttle's SRBs, which use parachutes. And the big killer is speed. For every time, speed and heat are related by the cube, not by the square. So if you go twice as fast, you're gaining 8 times more heat. So it's scary. And the crazy thing is that the Electron and the Falcon 9 are following they're very, very similar trajectories. Very similar. So Rocket Lab's got a challenge ahead of them. It's a real, if they survive entry without any kind of propulsive reentry at all, and they just can survive coming in through the atmosphere, I will be very impressed. But I don't doubt them, though. That's, they're a very smart company. They do things that are so unique and tricky and thought to be impossible as well. They're doing things that are industry considered impossible 5 years ago. They're doing. And when they say they're going to do something, they normally, so far to date, have had very good reasons for doing that. So
that was part of the presentation too. When we say we're going to do something, we do it, or some variation of that.
He's like, we don't really do things prematurely. Like, we don't really talk about it before it happens. But then he kind of went on to say, like, but here's what we're doing. The reason I'm going to talk about it is because you'll see it on the pad, and we don't want to scare our customers either with wait, you changed your vehicle a little bit here,
Yeah.
But again, he went over
really
and over.
cool.
The vehicle's not growing. It's going to be the same size, but we will likely see recovery hardware. And I'm guessing that we might see air brakes, maybe some nitrogen thrusters on it. Yeah. That's my speculation. So
go Rocket Lab.
Go Rocket Lab. I love that company.
Would anybody be doing this if SpaceX hadn't, really done it with the Falcon 9?
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely.
Well, no. That's a legit question. I'm not just trying to pump up SpaceX. Like in the electric car space, it's really hard to argue that anybody would give a crap about electric cars if Tesla didn't do what they've done.
Right.
So
space, it's always, this has been a more a fruit that people want, as opposed to EVs was kind of the fruit no one wanted.
It was no, thank you.
Yeah, we're making awesome cars here. We don't need your crap. And this is almost this is the thing that people wanted to do. Parachutes have been looked at even with Armadillo, aerospace company, which went bye-bye. But it's always, and actually I talk about it in the video I make where they even thought about trying to recover the freaking Saturn V, the biggest rocket NASA's ever launched.
They did. I saw it at Kennedy Space Center.
But they wanted to catch the first stage, that huge thing with a helicopter. So this concept certainly isn't new.
So funny.
It's insane. It's plain
Airwolf
bonkers. Yeah, so that's my news for the week, or my biggest one for the week. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Should we keep talking space?
Speaking of the Saturn V, is that the only rocket that with 5 in it?
Not bad. Just this morning, I just wanted to share this. This will be a quick one. It was a pretty standard Atlas V mission, but it did the thing that we all love when rockets do. And it did, look at this. This is I'm on spaceflightnow.com. For those of you listening, I am sorry you have to go and check out these pictures. And check out all the other awesome photographers like
that's
Seth
great.
in our Discord, who's actually showing us his own streak shot. Holy cow, that's gorgeous.
You get to go check these out.
But this is Alex. I never know how to say your name, Alex. I'm so sorry, but Alex Polemeni. Yeah, see, that's why I don't try to ever say anything. But I know Alex. He's a really, really nice guy. Excellent photographer, shooting for spaceflight now. This Atlas V mission is in a 551 configuration that did the twilight phenomenon last night. Look at how pretty pictures of this are. Where the plume got backlit, illuminated by the sunrise.
That's really cool.
I just love. That's like, look at that plume, that exhaust plume. You can see the SRBs in these pictures. How cool is that? And these are pictures from Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now, Ben Cooper. Look at that. I mean, how freaking gorgeous is that?
That almost looks like something went horribly wrong.
It does. If you were standing here and you didn't know what's going on and you just saw it, because especially from this point of view, it looks like the rocket's going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
going to
it's
say,
like-
it looks like it came back to land, even in the first photos there. It looked like it was, like one of the
That's
SpaceX
just
ones where it goes up
perspective. It's because for some reason the Earth is round, and but yeah, these pictures. I'm really a big fan of Spaceflight Now's coverage on this. Beautiful pictures. Definitely go check those out and look for your favorite rocket photographers that covered this as well on Twitter. There's just awesome images going around right now. So I just thought that was kind of fun to talk about. Beautiful launch, and yeah. Let's do one more here on space, and then let's talk about this Tesla stuff, because there's some cool stuff going on. But speaking of throwing away rockets, because this Atlas V is, of course, not expendable, SpaceX tried to expend a rocket the other day. But even when they try, they can't, because here they are. This was an expendable Falcon 9 mission, and look at this. They perfectly caught a fairing this time. Look at this footage. Sorry, if you're listening, you might need to get on YouTube or on Twitter or something and look up this fairing catch. They have a drone shot of the boat catching it in the ocean. How beautiful is that? Nailed it this time. Isn't it funny how...
Knowing how big that fairing is, think about how big that net must be. Because it looks tiny.
It's insane. I don't think people appreciate the fact that that fairing is bigger than a school bus. Bigger than a bus by a lot. Like, you can easily fit a bus inside of that.
I never noticed the water before. Like, when I first saw it, it looked like it was just standing still. And I think it's because the drone has such a steady shot there. But yeah, as you see, that boat's moving pretty quick.
Yeah. The boat's got some velocity. It's certainly going, I don't know, 20, 30 kilometers an hour. It's definitely not stationary. And the cool thing is this is autonomously piloted. We did find out that it follows a GPS signal in a lock and automatically plots its course with the fairing. That was kind of talked about a little bit more recently. And now that they've done their last two attempts to do this have been successful. So
wow.
in typical
is that going to become routine now?
I was going to say this will probably become routine. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another ship now with another set of arms and another net and to go out and catch the other fairing half.
Remember like 6 weeks ago when this was impossible?
Man, that's ludicrous.
That is, though. And remember, the whole thing is that's millions of dollars.
So it's worth it. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, the fact that they have already caught two halves, that almost probably is paid for the most of the engineering efforts. Not most of them, but like, we're probably going to close that, or where they're going to close that gap really quickly. I'm guessing catch X number, 4, 5, 10, 20, whatever it is, and you totally paid off your R&D and your ship costs and all that stuff. And
for the recovery, for building that recovery system.
Yeah, for building the recovery system. And now, this is crazy. I mean, even when they tried to throw away a rocket, they totally expended the first stage of the Falcon 9. It was a Block 5 booster even. It went bye-bye, it went in the drink. But even so, they still cover half a fairing. So, dang it, SpaceX. You gotta stop.
No, that was cool. I had not seen that footage till you just showed me. So that was a legit react. That was a reaction video. That's now a reaction video.
Which is super, super cool. Speaking of grabbing things out of the sky, though, Joe, wasn't there something?
Yeah. Do you guys have this to share?
I can bring it up, yeah.
Sorry. I haven't really had a chance to dig into this too much because I was up super late last night, but this is really, really cool. So I said, and this is what the headline says, NASA worked out how to make food out of thin air and it could feed billions. I think it's kind of unfair to say NASA did it because it's actually a company called Solar Foods from Finland, so they don't really have anything to do with NASA, but that's the headline.
It's space.
So
That
let's
means
just keep
NASA.
repeating that lie. But no, they basically have found a way to take CO2 out of the air. Well, they didn't figure out how to. That's direct air capture. They're not doing that necessarily, but the idea is you collect carbon dioxide out of the air, combine it with some stuff, and make protein out of it, like protein powder that you could put in shakes, and I mean, just like any of the protein powders you use now to make. They say it tastes like wheat flour, and that's just super cool.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, the implications of that, like, think about this. Taking freaking CO2 out of the air and making food, like solving two of our biggest problems on Earth, like human starvation and carbon air, pollution, basically, global warming. I mean, geez.
So just a little bit about this. So I guess we would actually be sequestering it in our poop.
Mm-hmm.
We will be sequestering CO2 with our poop.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah, I like that.
Let's just go with that.
I poop anyway, so.
So this product is actually called Solein, like solar protein. I'm just going to read what it says here. It's made out of CO2, water, and electricity. It's a high-protein, flour-like ingredient, contains 50% protein content, 5 to 10% fat, 20 to 25% carbs. Reportedly looks and tastes just like wheat flour. Could become an ingredient in a wide variety of foods after it's launched in 2021. The reason why I get excited about this kind of thing, and yeah, there's some charts that Tim has pulled up here that show how, like...
Actually, Ben did it.
Oh, Ben, sorry.
I don't mind taking credit.
But it shows how, like, the greenhouse emissions is lower than almost everything else except for, like, what is that, spirulina and insects, which insect protein, it's a thing.
Absolutely.
Chapulines.
The minimal water footprint as opposed to poultry, what is it, like 40 to 348 per 1 kilogram, and the others are like 14,000.
Yeah.
Arable
crazy.
land, it requires 0 arable land to farm or anything like that. So
Wow.
this is something I actually am super interested in because if I'm not trying to spoil anything or like try to. Anyway, something I would love to do personally in terms of projects for my channel or maybe like a documentary or something like that would be to follow the Carbon XPrize. And if you're not familiar with the Carbon XPrize, it's basically the same people who did the Lunar XPrize and the SpaceX Prize, Peter Diamandis and those guys. They're trying to find use for CO2 because we have the technology right now to do direct air capture, to capture CO2 out of the air. And many people are saying that that's really, I mean, we can cut out all CO2 emissions right now and still be in a heap of trouble. Like we've already put that much into the air. Like we've got to find a way to get it out somehow. And there's technologies to do it now. There's carbon engineering in British Columbia. There's Climeworks in Switzerland that do direct air capture. The problem is, what do you do with that? Like a lot of people talk about CCS, which is carbon capture and sequestration, which is basically they pump it down into the ground. But that's just throwing money at the problem, and that's like probably governments and taxes having to pay for something like that because there's no money to be made from it. The Carbon XPrize wants to create a carbon market. So they've got 12 finalists that they've got right now, and the idea is they're trying to find ways to use CO2 to create a value around that. So that companies, and even like, a coal plant or whatever that has, their emissions going up, they could capture the CO2 coming out of their stacks and sell it. That could be a source of revenue for them. Like they would be incentivized to not put that in the air,
Right.
Whereas right now it's just money they have to spend, and they would probably pass that on to the consumers. So that's the idea behind the Carbon XPrize. There's a lot of ideas that they're working on, different plastics that could be used. They're made out of CO2, concrete that could be made out of CO2. So you would literally be sequestering the carbon into the homes that we're building.
That's
and,
cool.
and the buildings and stuff, and the infrastructure, roads and whatnot.
That's really cool.
And this is just another one of those ideas that I don't think it's part of the Carbon XPrize, but it's another
should
idea
be.
just like that.
Why isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's. I don't think they are. I've looked at the finalists and I didn't see Solar Foods anywhere. But
Joe, I am a huge supporter and fan of the idea of you kind of pursuing like a more long-term project and really documenting or archiving and doing like a, imagine if if you're just paying really close attention and have the story to tell about this. That could be really, really cool. I think
there's really a good story there. Yeah.
Yeah. Please do that. Like start, maybe for you, because you make 2 videos a week already.
Stop
you
doing
don't
that
have time.
and then go make one of these a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Just stop
or
working,
one of these
Joe.
A year. Yeah. I'm all in for that. That'd be amazing.
What I love the idea of is that we could basically create a global thermostat by having these sorts of plants all around the world that could just pull out the CO2. And hey, if we need to add more CO2, if we pull out too much, that's not hard. We know how to do that pretty well.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that.
But this lets us just kind of regulate.
I'm surprised.
Regulators.
I'm surprised there's not a big oil media story out there that's like, if we switch over to batteries and electric cars, eventually the Earth will freeze because we won't have enough CO2.
Oh, it's out there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like warning about this. Like, we don't want to pull out too much CO2 from the atmosphere.
Well, CO2 is plant food, and if you pull it out, all the trees will die.
Because no trees existed before humans put CO2 in the air.
There are people claiming that there's global greening right now thanks to CO2, so it's actually a good thing. Yeah, it's out there.
What was it, that document? Not to go too far off topic, but the One Strange Rock thing with Will Smith. They talked about dendrites or something. Is that what they're called? But that's actually what generates oxygen that we use. That plants actually are kind of neutral in this space. That like the oxygen we breathe, we all have this assumption that it comes all from like the rainforest and stuff like that. Yeah. But really, it's from these like bacteria or something that are in the ocean that generate
like algae.
Yeah. I think they were called dendrites or something. And they had all the astronauts saying like, yeah, look, see these photos? We can from space see this giant plume of them all the way across the ocean, and that's actually. But most people think of it as like pine trees or something.
So that's an issue when there's extra CO2 in the air. The oceans become acidic, and those kinds of things start dying out. Yeah. And that's what's really putting all the oxygen out there.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the real fear.
Yeah.
Joe brings the existential dread.
Now,
of course,
this reminded me of a thing that I'm itching to buy for my house as I become more and more off grid and just like a hermit, I guess, is this thing they're called hydro panels. There's a company in Scottsdale that makes them, and I've been dying to do a review of one, but I think I'm just gonna have to buy them because they won't answer my phone calls. But they have these panels that suck water or humidity out of the air and generate pure, clean drinking water. And so it's kind of like what you're talking about. Instead of generating protein, it literally is like the system is 3 solar panel like things in this unit, and the middle one is what they call a hydro panel. And as long as it's above 5% humidity, so the company's based in Scottsdale, Arizona, so if it works there, it works pretty much anywhere. It can one unit of this can generate about 15 liters of pure drinking water every single day, and that's it. It's self-contained. Like when you look at the installation, it's like they ship it to you, you bolt it down on your roof, and you run the water line to your house, and you're done. It's like 2 hours, free, unlimited water forever. There you go. You got to clean the
especially if you have
that
solar.
Somewhere. With the humidity that we have here in Dallas, I would probably flood the house.
Yeah, right.
It would might be dangerous.
Iowa. Hey, did we talk about this on the show? But do you guys know why Iowa has so much humidity? Like more humidity than Florida or like
Are you
the
talking
coast.
about usually or like now, like it's increasing or something?
Well, it is a time frame thing, but it's every summer.
Okay.
We get insane humidity. Can you guys do you know why?
The lakes?
River?
Aren't you by the Great Lakes, kind of?
Nah. I mean, yeah.
You guys just sweat a lot?
It's so stereotypical. Corn.
Oh. There you
Every summer we get this rainforest. Literally, the surface area. Like, think about how much surface area there is that collects humidity And that I didn't know that growing up until like I just learned that like 2 years ago. I was like, that's the most stereotypical Iowa thing ever. But that's why we have this crazy humidity during the summer, and it doesn't make sense because we're just in the middle of in the middle
I didn't
of
know
nowhere.
that. That's interesting.
No water, and yeah, it's all the surface area from the corn. There you go.
Well, that makes sense.
Nice.
You get a lot of oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Corn
Pretty crazy.
kind of does everything for the world nowadays, right?
It's true. So you're welcome.
My people call it maize.
Ooh.
Speaking of living things, I just want to touch on this topic really quick. We didn't even pull up an article, but did you guys hear about how there's accidentally tardigrades on the moon now?
I only saw the headline, and I think you got to explain it to me.
Well, there's not much. I mean, I don't really want to go into this too much. It's just kind of interesting. So remember how the Beresheet lander crashed on the moon a few months ago? It would have been the first private landing on the moon. And it was an Israeli lunar lander. Really
From
promising.
the Lunar XPrize.
It was for the Google Lunar XPrize. It was totally on the wrong time frame. Like they wouldn't have won even if they did land on time. But unfortunately, it crashed, litho-braked into the surface of the moon, which accidentally released a bunch of tardigrades, which are, those are like known as the toughest living thing in the in our known universe. Yeah, water bears. And because they had them on this little sample from this company, included a little sample of them for some reason. And they
maybe don't do that next time.
Yeah, they didn't really expect it to go wrong. And now we have tardigrades on the moon. That's pretty much the moral of the story.
And so my question was, how do we know that they weren't already there? We don't.
And we don't necessarily. I mean, we just haven't observed them ourselves. We don't have any data of them being on the moon prior. Doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't there because we've only seen tiny little bits of the moon.
But we could. But the tardigrades, they can live in space, right?
They can live in like anything. They can live in a volcano. They can like live in Antarctica. I mean, they're they can live in the vacuum of space. They're nuts.
I think it was Cosmos, the newer version with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't know about the original one, but they put forward that argument of like people theorized that maybe that's how life on Earth started, was a meteor or something that had them hit Earth, and then that mixed with all the other primordial stuff, and boom, here we are, our ludicrous future, right?
So flash forward 4 billion years on the moon, they will evolve to
regular bears.
To regular bears. They'll be bears on the moon.
Moon bears. Look out.
Instantly there will be a sport hunting trip to the moon.
Yeah. Oh, Ben, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I had the perfect segue earlier, but you kind of threw me off. You're talking about
let's reverse. Let's rewind.
It's not Mr. Steven, right? Is it Mrs. Steven? What's the
It's Miss Tree now.
What? Mystery?
Mystery, yep. So Mystery floating around in the ocean, driving around autonomously.
Autonomously. Yeah, speaking of things autonomous, did you guys get this email about upgrading to full self-driving from Tesla?
Mm-hmm. No, because they already have it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So their email system works. It's good. So a lot of people got this. I thought it made sense just to talk about it, give folks my perspective, and then we can kind of just have a discussion. But Tesla sent out an email to everyone that has a car eligible, but haven't purchased the full self-driving option, and they are offering it for the reduced price of $3,000, also known as the original price. And there's lots of confusion and stuff around this, but basically the price is going to upgrade, is going to start to go up on August 16th, so in about a week or so. And from then, I think Elon tweeted something like it's going to keep going up, like $10,000 a day or something crazy. I don't know what it was. But point being, a lot of people are wondering, like, should you upgrade to this? Should you actually get it? And what do you get? Well, according to them, you get the Navigate on Autopilot system, which does this on-ramp to off-ramp thing. It it goes interchanges, merges, exits, etc. It gives you Auto Park, which I've actually never used, and Summon, which is just kind of like a cool party trick currently. But there's the advanced Summon coming, where it'll actually find you in a parking lot, also known as Batman mode. So yeah, it's cool, right? The question is, should you get it? Well, my thoughts are kind of simple on it, but I also wanted to share someone that wrote an article on Forbes named Brad Templeton, who kind of had this 8-question thing here about whether or not, I think there were 8 questions, 8, maybe 9 questions, about whether or not you should get it. So I'll link to that if you guys want to dig into it. I'm not going to go through those now, but the short answer for me is if you have the money and you plan on keeping your car that is capable of doing this for a long period of time, and by that I mean like 10 years or more, then I think it makes sense, because by then there should be a large distinction between non-full self-driving cars and full self-driving cars. And then at some point, they will truly become full self-driving, and you could put it on the Tesla network, and it becomes an appreciating asset. It makes you money if you choose to do so. So I think if you're more like, hey, you know what, I'm going to get a Model Y, I'm going to trade in my Model 3, or I want to upgrade to a Model S or Model X or whatever within the next 5-6 years, I personally wouldn't do it. But if you're like, this is my forever car, I'm going to give this to my kids one day, whatever, then absolutely, I think it makes sense. $3,000 for what you get, I think, is a fair price. Are they actually upping the price because there's new features coming out, or is it just a sales tactic to try to bump up revenue for this quarter? There's lots of like different questions and ways you can take those ideas. But personally, if you're going to keep the car for a long time, do it. If not, I would just order it with your next one whenever you do that. So are you guys going to do it? Have you thought about it?
Well, I have it.
Tim already has it. No, I wasn't really jumping to do it. My feeling is like they change these things so much that this is going to happen again probably in 3 or 4 months. That's my assumption. And I was never like, that was never like a big priority, the self-driving thing, until they get it, situated. Then I'll probably want to jump on. But
now, how long do you plan on keeping your car?
A while.
Yeah, you had your last one like 14 years or something, right?
Yeah. I'm not somebody that switches out every other year or anything.
I would definitely argue against the 10-year timeline. I even think if you're having your car for like 3 years, $1,000 a year, and if you don't have Navigate on autopilot currently, I personally actually love that system, and I would imagine that if they do more of the real self-driving stuff, and if they start unlocking more parts, they will crank up the price. As soon as it's more feature rich, I have zero doubt in my mind they're going to be like, it is now $10,000. Mm-hmm. And that might happen in the next year, so if you're wanting self-driving and if that's valuable to you, get on it now is what I feel like. I mean, that's my personal.
Well, here's okay. Here's the sentence I can't finish. Okay, so on one hand, they get everything just the way they want it, Tesla network, it all works and all that kind of thing. Wouldn't they want to encourage people to put their cars on the Tesla network because they'll make a little piece of every mile that's driven or whatever?
Yeah, they probably would have a lot of cars in the inventory already. Like at that point, someone talked about this, right? Like there may be a future where Tesla doesn't sell cars anymore.
Yeah.
And because if they're producing 1,000 per day or more by that point, in theory, that would be more valuable to them. I don't think they would necessarily need your car on the network. I mean, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but yeah, like overnight they could boom, here's 500,000 car fleet. We just completely destroyed the ride sharing market and we own it now, So there's an advantage.
They're not going to be anywhere near that for a long time, but
yeah, I'm still very much in the sense of like actual full self-driving cars were maybe 10 years out. I mean, they put out this photo. I don't know if you guys saw this before, but this is an actual rendering of a Model 3 that does not have a steering wheel or anything. So, I don't know. I mean, personally, I just think it's going to be a long ways out. And, if you're planning on buying a new car between now and then, I would just save your money there. Like I'm not upgrading, but I plan on getting rid of my Model 3 as soon as I get the Model Y. Although I've done so much to the Model 3 now, I kind of feel bad getting rid of it.
Yeah, with your auto trunk thing. That's crazy. I watched that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
The automatic trunk, and then also the towing. You know, I have a tow hitch on there, and we have the actual brake light hookup for a tow hitch, because in California, anyways, it's illegal to drive a trailer without the brake light thing. And so, like, yeah, my friend Jehu just like we totally just, you know, ripped it open and tapped into the brake light system. Like, I just bought some random tow hitch parts, and we just wired it up custom. It's like, selling this is going to be like, dang, man, we're kind of like, we're not going to have those features on the new one, you know? Not that we use it.
How often do you tow with it, though?
Well, it was just more of a sense of like, can we do it? And, you know, it was.
So it's not like a feature
More
thing
now.
that you're like, man, dang it.
Yeah.
Darn it. I got rid of the one thing I use every week.
Well, the automatic trunk. So if the Model Y has the automatic trunk, then we're good. Elon said it would, and everyone was like, oh, no way. Everyone freaked out in the audience when he did that. But and then later everyone's like, oh, is it real? Is it what did he, was he lying about that? Like, what was the deal? And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's a hard thing for them to solve, you know? Like, self-driving cars might be a little bit higher, like more difficult of a challenge than a power lift gate.
I don't know, man. The power lift gate takes electricity. Where are they going to get all that from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coal.
There you go.
This just in. Now Teslas will include a coal power plant.
That's right.
Rolling coal into Tesla.
So want to do that.
I'm excited to go back down to Texas and get coal rolled on. Oh, we also need to explain. Apparently, a lot of people don't know what that is.
Oh.
That listen to our podcast.
Oh, so
YouTube video.
so tender and naive.
Well, that might be a
To the
U.S.
ways of
thing too.
redneckdom.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably just so rolling coal is basically diesel trucks, or I guess cars too, or whatever. Diesel vehicles, especially people that tune them and try to get more torque, which is still gonna be like a tenth the amount of torque as an electric vehicle. Ben is pulling up people rolling coal, but basically you can like hold down on the brake, floor it, and it just spews black smoke. And people, like, I would say not very smart or nice or kind individuals do this to people or cars and property, and it's just a disgusting thing. It's so stupid. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, those people are protesting hate, so we need to put them in their place.
Yeah.
Now, did they have to modify it to do this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You have to remove some emissions and tune it so it's fuel rich. That's, oh God, why? Why is this something you want to do?
Because it's America.
America.
Coal roll.
Like, I understand having a diesel truck. Don't get me wrong. If you are a contractor and you're pulling a, 8,000 pound, 3,800 kilogram trailer around it with you at almost all times or whatever. Yep, you're gonna probably need that F-350 with the super heavy duty stroke diesel power gate thing.
For now.
Yeah, you need that for now. So I'm not like saying that diesel. It's just that like when people, if you intentionally tune it to roll coal and you do that on people like bicyclists and stuff, like screw you, grow
You're
up,
a douche.
grow up. You are a child.
So yeah, speaking of for now, isn't there a little hint that might have been dropped out there about a non-coal rolling
Truck
thing?
Yeah.
Truck?
So, what do you guys think? What's the model of the truck going to be called? Do we have any clues?
Well, just because we talked
The
about
Model
it before the
T.
show. Model T for truck.
So Elon's
Model
been
P
tweeting,
pickup
and
truck.
I don't really. It's funny. Elon tweets so much I don't even follow it. But there was a headline that they may call it the Model B, and that's largely because Elon's been tweeting all those kind of weird little memes. Are these memes or dad jokes? I don't know.
Both.
I call them memes.
Yeah. So there's like a British bee versus a US bee. There's the bee all you can be. There's Teletubby, Queen Bee. He has all these like little memes with all these things. And so if they did call the truck the Model B, you could spell out be sexy or be sexier with the Roadster. I don't know.
Oh my God.
That whole thing is funny. Like I can't tell you how many people that I just know personally, friends, family, whatever. When there was some article when the Model Y came out, it spells sexy, ha 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 ha. And I'm like, did you guys, like, to me, I'm like, yeah, we've known this forever.
Yeah.
Literally forever.
Yeah.
It would be weirder if they didn't name it the Model Y.
Yeah. And they're like, did you know he was doing that? Like, I think anyone that follows does do that for a lot. I remember when I first heard it years ago, I'm like, no way. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess so. I guess that's how they're rolling. Okay.
And I guess eventually it could be semi-sexy.
Ooh.
Or be semi-sexier.
Be semi-sexier, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and did you guys pick up the story at the Model Y event why they didn't call the Model X the Model S2 or something like that? It was because the license plate would say Models 2. Like, oh, okay. Name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because they were trying to figure out, like, all the names. They're like, sedan, SUV. Okay, well, it would be the Model S2. No, that doesn't make sense.
Well, and Elon apparently had the license plate Model S, and he was walking away from it and just goes like, models. That's not a very good look. Like, just walking out of a nice car. Models.
This is like the genius dilemma where, like, there's things that are, like, really weird and, like, everyone else laughs at, but you're like, you totally don't get it. Like, that's Elon. Like, I'm sure the way he sees the world, everyone else is like, ha! And he's like, huh? Well, I don't understand. Like,
yeah. Poor Elon. Hey, real quick, tangent. Seth in our Discord was asking about if you have a diesel that rolls coal, will it pass emissions? And the deal is a lot of these people have an OBD2 port, like, tuner chip that you can change the tune, like, on the fly, basically. You can park, pull over, reflash your ECU, program your diesel to, like, for daily driving, these people will just drive around with this, like, basically I will call it butthole mode. We might as well just call it dirty fart mode. And then, like, if they were to have to go get tested for emissions or whatever, they can change and reflash it back to, like, a factory setting so they don't get fined. I think there needs to be substantial fines. If someone has, like, a video of someone rolling coal, if we could give that to the police or the APA, they should be rolling out some fat fines, rolling coal on these guys.
You mean the EPA?
The EPA or somebody, yeah. Or the policeman.
I think the EPA is now in favor of rolling coal.
Yeah.
So
it's true. Well, maybe if it becomes valuable asset, CO2 emissions. Hey, someone grab that.
There goes $50.
Yeah.
Grab a net.
Did you see people running around with the garbage bags behind cars?
There's money in that cloud of smoke.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that back up. Because we love our Discord members.
Did you guys happen to catch Jay Leno on CNBC talking about Tesla?
I just
a long
saw
time ago.
Yeah, so apparently there was an old article, and Joe, you talked about it, where CNBC
Still gets my goat.
Yeah, it talked about why Jay Leno feels like an idiot after buying a Tesla. And it had nothing to do with actually buying a Tesla. It was about him calling Elon Musk when he was in Japan or something like that at 3 a.m. But Jay Leno was on his show, Jay Leno's Garage, is coming back, very big car guy, big voice and celebrity kind of in that space. Well, he just went on recently, and they asked him about electric cars. I don't know if they were specifically asking about Tesla. I think they were just saying, what do you think about electric cars? And he had some quotes there. And for anyone that doubts or questions Jay Leno's love for electric cars and Tesla, just a quote that he said. He said, I have a Tesla. I've had it for 3 years. I haven't done anything. There's no fluids to change. There's nothing. He said, I predict a child born today probably has as much chance of driving in a gas car as people today have been driving with a stick shift. So in his eyes, the future is all electric, that gas cars they'll always be around, like stick shift cars are still around, but they'll be a hobbyist thing. They'll be a more of a niche, that it won't be a common thing that, like electric cars are going to completely take over. And this is corroborated from a friend of mine that went to Jay Leno's garage with him and looked in his garage, and he had, McLaren F1, and all these other like insanely amazing, valuable, like crazy special cars. And right next to it, was like a 2013 Tesla Model S or something like that. And he asked him, hey, what's this Tesla doing here with all these insane cars? He said, oh, that's my favorite car. That's the one I drive every day.
That's amazing. Cool.
So Jay Leno, like arguably the biggest figure in like the car loving world, literally is just, enamored with it. And I think that just speaks volumes, right? Like I think the rest of the world is clearly going this way. And it's just great to see someone like that, especially when there's all these dumb articles saying that he doesn't like Tesla for some reason, which I have really no idea where that comes from. So
I like the stick shift analogy. I think that's pretty good because I know people who are just gearheads. They will never get an electric car. Fair enough. Not everybody has to get one, but so, like you said, it might be more of a hobbyist thing. My last car was a stick shift. This Model 3 is the first car I've ever had that didn't have a stick shift. I always liked having a stick shift.
Yeah.
And now I kind of don't. But, but I think that's a good way of putting it because, yeah, I think they'll always kind of be there, but it'll be more of a niche kind of thing.
Yeah, like the vast majority of people do not want a stick shift car. It's funny. Someone asked me if the Tesla makes a manual version.
They could make it. I still want it to be like on the screen a way to like be able to row through the gears and have like similar acceleration feeling and stuff.
Now that'd be a fun little mod. Just have a stick shift there in the.
So is this
USB? Is this a USB joystick?
I think this is my opportunity to say your understanding of electric motors is adorable.
Are you inferring that they could not match an acceleration profile? First gear, high torque, and then it limits the range to 32 mile an hour, and then all of a sudden it hits a hard limit. It's all programmed in.
What I'm saying is there's one gear.
Oh, I know. I know that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
You made it sound like there were multiple gears there for a second.
An emulator.
Now, they did try to have the first version of it was a 2-gear system, but if I recall, they couldn't quite get the timing of it down to where the second gear could pick up in time because it was just going too fast. Mm-hmm. So it just kept destroying motors. And this was like before the original Roadster. It was I think those AC propulsion guys were the ones that really kind of.
I thought even the original Roadster, some of them shipped with the 2-speed.
I don't think so. I don't think they shipped with them. I think they like had them, like maybe Elon's or something like that. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But it was a real issue,
and they had to floating around Mars.
Yeah, like they had to. Well, that wasn't actually the first one. They had to stop production and stuff like that. But yeah. Anyways.
Interesting.
That's nuts. I do want to say I will draw up a fake concept of a fake gear shifter that sits in the cup holders of a Model 3, plugs into the USB, and you can emulate shifting.
Do it.
That would be so. And I still want it to have like a vintage dream car collection, like a Easter egg, where you can click on like, I want to be driving, a 1967 Stingray. And it has the audio comes through the speakers that matches it.
Yeah.
And you drive around and it matches the acceleration profiles. Or 1985 Lamborghini Countach,
Yeah.
And you get to hear that and match the because we can match the acceleration easily.
Well, it'd be like
even a base Model 3 is faster than a Lamborghini Countach 0 to 60.
It'd be like the BMW i3 where they actually play audio of an engine in the car to make you feel like you're going faster.
I like the idea of being able to adapt it so it sounds like different kinds of cars. That's kind of neat. But the idea of we got to make everything noisier.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Is like
I live by a noisy road. That is like pains me. Now, did you guys see recently? So I don't think the Model 3 has ever had an AM radio. I mean, it might have the actual thing, but it doesn't like show up. I don't think. But I noticed recently in my Model X, I no longer have an AM radio. And you might be thinking, why the hell do you want an AM radio? And the answer is because when you tune the AM radio all the way down to like 500 or 520 or whatever, 530, whatever the lowest thing is, it actually picks up the frequency of the electric motor in the car. And it sounds amazing.
weird.
It sounds like a crazy hypercar, like a crazy Ferrari making these noises.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I loved that. That was like a fun little trick I would show people, especially the car heads that were like, it doesn't make a sound. I'm like, hey, check this out, and they're like, what? So now it's gone, and I'm kind of bummed on this whole thing. Yeah, so
it would be fun to have a sound enhancement mode for sure.
Well, I'm thinking, why don't they just make a stereo amplifier thing you could put in your car to do this? So if you are at a drag race, you could, actually just like literally just like go buy a boombox and like tape it to inside of your bumper or something to make it make it do this. Anyways.
So speaking of, why don't they just, I forgot to do one this week, so I'm just struggling to keep talking here, guys.
Why don't they?
I'm done. I got nothing else to say. So,
dang it, guys.
Joe's quota of words has been exhausted for the day.
I'm similar.
It's not like my job in a podcast to say things.
Here we go. Here's one. I'm gonna pull this up. This is perfect because we kind of talked about it a little bit, and it's in line, and I know the answer. So there we go.
That's why you pick all of them. It shouldn't be called Why Don't They Just? It should be called Let's Make Ben and Joe Look Dumb.
No, it should be called Does Tim Know the Answer? Yeah, right. Sometimes it's ones that Ben knows, and sometimes it's one that you know. But you're right. Since I'm the one that always ends up choosing it, I pretty much just go, I know the answer to that one. All right, Captain Crutch at CPTN Crutch 5373 does. Every day astronaut Ben Stollen's answer to Joe, why don't they just stretch Electron a little so they have extra fuel margins to at least do a reentry burn to better be recovered and maybe even land Falcon 9 style or catch it like SpaceX's fairings with a boat? Why don't they just do that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty small right now. Well, is it the fuel to weight rate, thrust to weight ratio paradox kind of thing, where like you add more fuel, then that adds more weight, and you need more thrust, and then you add more fuel, and that kind of thing?
It's a good guess, Joe.
I'm not saying this to make fun of Captain Crunch. This is a fair enough question. I just think it's funny that like for years everybody was like, why don't they reuse their rockets? Why don't they reuse their rockets? And then they're like, okay, we'll reuse the rockets. Oh, why don't you do it this way?
Or opposite of that is people being like, why doesn't SpaceX just use a parachute instead of wasting all that fuel?
Yeah.
And now we have the exact opposite.
No, I figure this is probably the simplest solution. Why bother redoing the rocket if they can make it work if it the way it is right now? And I'm still sticking with what I was saying earlier, that adding more rocket probably adds more weight, and that adds more friction and heat and everything. I just figure they found a way to do it the way it is right now, and why reinvent the rocket?
See, you guys don't need me. You guys both nailed it. I mean, that's exactly right. Like, it's especially with the rocket equation, if you want to add more fuel for that amount of burn, like you can quickly make a tiny rocket a much, much, much bigger rocket. And so now it needs a little more fuel. But that more fuel, we might have to like upgrade the engines too now, because now it weighs more. It's never as simple as just stretching it. But the one thing that's interesting is I'm going to talk about here in the video, is that it does ride on lithium-ion batteries. So as lithium-ion batteries capacity increase, they can make lighter weight batteries for the same output, and that can increase the performance of the vehicle. And eventually, they might get to the point. They might find out that they can't survive reentry without propulsive landing, and that might be the first thing they have to aim for. Is like, well, we'll have to wait until we are up to that upgrade point, or we just actually have some additional propellant left over because we have upgraded the engines and the
would COPVs help at all here? Like, is it not strong enough to make a significant entry burn?
Oh, definitely not. And it's a COPV is a horrible efficiency wise for thrust. Like they only produce about 70. Their specific impulse is about 70, which is very inefficient. compared to these rocket engines are like 3 or 4 times that for efficiency. So you're much better off, and the additional weight of that system, you're much better off using the engines that are already there. If you need to slow down, use the engines you have. Like that's by far the most energy efficient way. But I think, you guys are right. The answer is they, according to their models, according to everything they've studied and their really comprehensive fluid dynamics, it appears that they can survive reentry without doing one. So why would you do one if you don't need to, And we'll see. We'll see. They might have.
We'll see what happens.
I'm excited. This is going to be fun. This is like watching when SpaceX was practicing and working on trying to land, it was every time they flew, it was like eyes glued to the screen. Yeah. So we're back in those days again, and it's going to be really fun. So,
yes. And now they land, and we're just like,
yeah. What else can you catch? I can't. You're only catching one fairing. Why don't you catch another one?
Now it's almost more like NASCAR. You're watching just in case they don't land. Really you're watching for the crash, just in case.
Really, it feels like that way. So that's what video I'm working on. I'm going to be really, really, really diving into this recovery system. I wrote 11 pages in the past 36 hours trying to shoot this baby up before I leave and edit it. I don't know. I probably won't sleep, and good luck for me. And then I'll get back to the Aerospike engine. Joe, what are you working on?
Well, first of all, if you are working for 36 hours straight and then driving to Texas, be careful.
I'll sleep. I'll get some sleep.
Just gone say that.
Yeah.
So what I'm working on, and I'm actually still scripting it right now, and I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning doing that. Why do I do these? Universal basic income.
Yeah.
I'm jumping into that mire.
Wow. Oh, God.
Did you get a interview with Andrew Yang?
You know what? I actually wonder if I could at this point, but I doubt it. I mean, actually, if I had done this 6 months ago, I probably could have. But now he's
You've got a big reach. You've got,
You've got a reach, man.
Yeah.
These candidates want that. It definitely worth reaching out to them.
He's not getting the airtime on, the mainstream stuff, so.
He's getting a little bit more lately, but
it'd be worth reaching out to their media department. That'd be worthwhile.
Did you read his book?
I've already had 1 million people ask if I'm on the Yang gang, and I'm not in any gang at this point. Maybe the Sharks and the Jets, but
Low gang.
Wow, that was terrible. Anyway, but if you haven't been to his website, I think it's yang2020.com. I've never seen a platform so detailed. They have 100 different policies, and each one has its own page that you can dig into, and it's got here's the problem we're trying to solve, here's the solution to it, here's how it's going to work, here's how you pay for it. It's detailed. I was kind of blown away by it.
I feel like we're going to come, look back 20 years and be like, dang, he's the guy we should have elected,
Well, but he's young, he's my age.
All right, so he could keep going.
And, so yeah, this. It's kind of like Bernie Sanders ran in 2016, and he had these sort of more democratic socialist ideas, and they weren't really accepted. They're a lot more accepted now than they were back then. I think this might be one of those things that just kind of builds over time. We'll see.
It'll become inevitable. Is kind of the idea, right?
Well, that's the people who really believe in it. That's what they think.
Part of that whole story is interesting. I don't know if you talk about this in or use that. I'm sure you're finding examples of where machines have displaced people, but Freakonomics just did an episode recently, I think their latest episode, about how automatic tomato canning or something like that, like things that pick tomatoes. At the time, there were something like 5,000 tomato farms in the country, and then like 2 years later, there were less than 500 tomato farms, because these farms just bought these automatic canning machines, and it just destroyed everyone else on prices. And there was this whole thing about the Cold War and the space race, and we didn't know about it, but there was the farm wars, which were all about supermarkets. And there's all the it's just a great episode where they talked about how the idea of the supermarket was born here, and how that proliferated, and there was this government push to convince the communist countries during the Cold War that, look, if you disavow communism, then you'll have supermarkets. And it led to some famous debate in a fake supermarket in the kitchen with Nixon called the kitchen debates. But anyways, there were tons of examples there that were basically along the lines of, oh, automation like destroyed this, but produced this, and the productivity went through the roof. And so prices dropped, et cetera, et cetera. It's like very much in line with, what we would today look at for universal basic income as kind of the cause of that.
Well, this is the problem. This is why it's taken me so long to write this, is like every time I turn around, there's some new interesting tidbit that...
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really hard to find the interesting stuff to put in a video, and sometimes I'm just drowning in interesting stuff, and it's picking the right ones and finding the story, and that's kind of what I'm struggling with on this one. But I think I've got it at this point.
This is one of those topics that we could... maybe we'll have to talk about more next week after you've finished your script and totally, have a... and your video's out so we can all watch it and talk about it. But I definitely think like universal income and automation is something that we direly need to be looking into as a country. Just look at how many jobs are displaced. Like everyone right now is fighting over how to replace drivers in cars. Like that's a huge portion of our, that's a lot of people's jobs. And it's being fought over. Like this is one of the most active industries, is like, let's get drivers out of cars. Like right there, boom, those jobs are not coming back. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. They're gone.
Transportation jobs are 3.5% of our entire workforce.
Yep. There goes 3.5% of our workforce. It's not going anywhere. And then like,
well, not to mention the infrastructure around that.
Yeah.
And all the people that work,
You guys are just teeing up my next video. Look at this. It's great.
Because then it gets into, like, look at even like a McDonald's or a Burger King or a Walmart, how many self-checkouts there are that has displaced a physical person. Maybe not a 1-to-1 ratio, but even if it's a decline, like those are things we need to consider. Amazon is working every single day of their lives to replace people with robots. Like
bank tellers,
that is,
Yeah. Like when I was a kid, we would drive through the bank and we would pull in, and there was this little pneumatic tube that you'd, fill out the little deposit slip or whatever, and it would, suck it up, and there'd be a person over there. That's just, maybe that exists somewhere. I'm sure it does somewhere.
People just don't even go to banks anymore.
Yeah.
In person. Like,
All, I was there not too long ago when I opened a business account for Teslanomics, and I went there, and they were like, yeah, people that come into the bank, really, their businesses succeed. I'm like, why? Like, I'm only here because you won't let me do this online. Like, I am not
regardless of whether you think UBI is the solution, I applaud Andrew Yang for bringing that to the forefront. We're talking about that problem now.
Yeah.
And we haven't been, and we need to be. So that's important.
It's a really interesting thing. So somewhat related to those things you guys were saying, the video I'm working on next week isn't so much about income, but it is about how driver distraction is increasing, and our phones, great example, and car tech has also been increasing to make us safer. But surprisingly, like you may think your phones are crazy distracting now, but we are actually at the peak safest car driving in our history. So before cell phones were even imagined, driving a car was 5 times more dangerous than it is today. So how is that? And so as our phones become more distracting, but cars also become safer and more autonomous, there's going to be kind of a nexus here of where we actually hit safe driving or, fully self-driving cars, and we may actually ban human driving at some point in time. And so what do these car safety features coming out, and Tesla's kind of on the forefront of that, what do they mean for us in our economy, and, how many lives are going to be saved and all those kind of things. So that's the kind of question I'm exploring in the next video. It's just it was fun looking at all the data, and thankfully there's actually a lot of research that's been done. So really, shout out to NHTSA and the people that actually spend the time and money doing this, because it's important stuff.
Yeah, you could create a really catchy headline around that.
Yeah,
I think you were talking about it before. It's like, do cell phone driving make us safer or something like that?
Dude, there's such an interesting case here around. Yeah, your phone makes you more distracted, right? However, we've always been distracted, right? People eating, smoking, having a coffee, trying to take care of your kids in the back. Driver distraction is not new by any stretch of the means. And in fact, there's not really much evidence to show that cell phones make us more distracted than we had been in the past. So it's just a crazy
I find
thing.
that hard to believe. Oh,
Well,
watching people.
And here's the flip side. If you're in a rural area and you get into an accident, subtract the cell phone from that equation. What happens?
Right.
You're stuck there.
Yeah.
You got to walk miles, if you can even walk, or hope someone else drives by to get help.
It's actually a good point. I think now about growing up in rural Texas and driving 2 hours to go see my grandparents before I really had a cell phone, and it's like I would panic.
What happened?
I would get halfway
Yeah.
there and have a full-on panic attack if I didn't have a phone on me at this point.
Right, exactly.
You
So
know?
imagine like on one hand, cell phones, are dangerous and all that, but on the other hand, they call emergency services much quicker. Even if it was in a city and there was an accident, without there's you have to run to a payphone or something. Like who's going to stop what they're doing, on your way to work to go call someone about this? But now with the cell phone everywhere, those emergency services get called immediately. So it's a really interesting thing to try to study around. Are they hurting us more or helping us more? It's like, I'm not sure there's a solid answer there.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that is crazy. Dang. Well, guys, I better get rolling because I have limited time here. So, thanks to our Discord members that are hanging out from our Patreon. If you guys want to join our Discord, make sure and say hi, guys.
Dakota and Seth.
Yeah,
you can say hi to them.
I think there's only 2 listening right now. Yeah, Dakota and Seth. Thanks for being with us while we're recording. You guys are awesome.
I think we started a little bit late, and they were like 5 minutes late. Screw this. I got things to do.
Yeah, we did start very late. Sorry about that. But maybe we'll see you next in
our
ludicrous
future
coffee. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/ourludicrousfuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there. Thanks.